Hello, you merrily moved malted midnight my guys, and thank you to Mungo, my Pat pal and Patreon supporter, for that malt mention, and welcome all you whisky fans and single malt curious to the Bothy. I'm Ralphie, your host. I regularly review Scotch single malt whiskies and other quality spirits here on YouTube. And at the end of the year, I select a specific whisky to be my whisky of the year for the following year. So this is going to be the whisky of the year for 2023. But we'll come to that in a few minutes. First of all, thank you for your ongoing support, watching my videos and being inspired in your next whisky purchase decision. It's my primary purpose is to simply share single malt and other quality spirit reviews with you. So I'm opening, let me see now, it must be at least 50 bottles, not a bit nearer 55 bottles of good quality spirits, mainly Scotch whisky, every single year. So I do appreciate the support you provide by watching my videos, clicking in the ads, and also choosing to become a Patreon subscriber on my Patreon channel called Ralphie, R-A-L-F-Y, where you get additional specific videos for subscribers and a bi-monthly live stream, which at the moment I'm going to be putting out a poll to my Patreon supporters to see if they would like it to go monthly. Yeah, mainly questions and answers type thing. Anyway, and more about that in the new year. It's been a busy year 2023 for many people who are into single malt whiskies, because so much has changed and then changed again, and the changes happened back in 2021, when the global pandemic shut everything down, and suddenly the distilleries around the world had significantly increasing difficulty in selling their product. Airports were shut, supermarkets were rationing stuff, and people's priority wasn't buying alcohol in the supermarket, it was buying toilet paper and other essentials. Yeah, although some would say that good quality spirits are a kind of an essential item. But all of a sudden, people were stuck at home and couldn't go to bars, pubs, clubs, events, etc. All the whisky festivals stopped globally, and the result of which was people started to move further online to get information, contact and conversation going with other whisky fans. And I really noticed that in my channel. And at this point, I've really noticed more and more people thinking more about what they're drinking, particularly in relation to the price. Because post-pandemic, as we opened up again, as the world opened up again, not completely, but it will eventually, for a while. What happened, basically, people got out and about, started reattending whisky festivals and saying, actually, we're noticing a significant rise in the cost of many bottlings. Now, I have to add, not all, but with some, price rises were an absolute banger. In fact, one of the major talking points online in 2022 has been Diageo's decision to literally double the price in the UK of Talisker 18-year-old from £85 to £170, even to £190, sometimes £200, depending where you're buying it. And my response to that is good luck to them, because we have other options. We don't have to go to Talisker for our heavily peated malt moments. There is Ardbeg, although Ardbeg haven't helped themselves by pinning their colours and their branding to the now defunct and largely failed non-fungible token scene, with the Bored Apes collapsing under the weight of overhype, too much hype. A word of advice to distilleries: don't get sucked into transient crypto-related fashions. It can really backfire on you. And that it really hasn't helped Macallan, Ardbeg, and certainly Dalmore by association. But these brands, they're looking to tap into the new deluxe, ultra deluxe market, and it certainly exists. I mean, you just speak to the Swiss watchmakers or high-end art producers in Japan, and manufacturers of Lamborghinis, Maseratis and Bugattis, to find out that demand is far exceeding supply. There is a new generation of mega rich. It's a global community, and whiskey, quite rightly, wants to get in the act, and so does bourbon and rum. And the way you do it is you get something really old, you put it in a very fancy decanter, you put it in a very fancy box, and you put a very fancy price tag on it, because what you're really selling is the price tag. And this is the, speak to any of the high-end fashion houses in Europe, whether it be Gucci or probably Hermes is the best example of that. But nobody's talking about Balenciaga at the moment, so we'll just carry on, move right over that. How embarrassing. But the single mission of high-end retailers is to actually persuade people with too much money to pay too much for stuff that isn't worth the price. And there are plenty of very rich people who don't subscribe to this nonsense, but there's plenty of others who do, because they're shallow and superficial. And good luck to them, because if their attention is being catered for by these blingy bottles, it leaves the better quality whiskey that actually smells better and tastes better for the rest of us. All we have to do is find out where to find it, and also at the same time to get relatively good value. And this is where I come in. This is my primary mission, as it always has been in 2022, 21, 20, it will be in 2023, to sniff out, literally, better quality whiskies at better value, at better prices, that deliver bang for your buck. This is why I'm going to be going back to reviewing non-age statement whiskies. There are a lot more very good, affordable non-age statement whiskies out there. And also, I'm noticing, unfortunately, that whiskies that do carry an age statement, the age statement does not live up to the expectations of delivery that I've come to be familiar with 10 or even 5 years ago with some brands. In other words, a 15-year-old's age statement is delivering you a 12-year-old whiskey, and a 12-year-old age statement is, in terms of smell and taste, delivering you a 10-year-old whiskey. And it's because of the activity, or should I say the proactivity, of the casks used in the collection of the batch. Because distillers use better casks, and then they use not so good casks. And when you have a greater proportion of not so good casks, but competent casks in the batch, it will actually bring the whole flavour profile and the maturity younger. It will take it down. And you really notice this when you're buying whiskies, single malts, at auction from 10 or even 15, 20 years ago, and you actually sit them side by side and compare the two. And I'm going to set you a challenge. Johnnie Walker Green Label. You get a bottle of that, widely available, not expensive, and you sit it on the table and you get a bottle of Johnnie Walker Green Label from auction and compare them side by side. In the process, Maltmates, you're going to learn an awful lot. Right, Joe. What else? Prices. I think that it's worth pointing out, in defence of distillers, seeing as I have this overview, that you can get cheap whiskey, but the whiskey you get will be cheap and inferior. And one significant reason for this is the level of duty in the British market and many other countries around the world including Canada, Australia, and right across the Scandinavian countries. Whisky seems extremely expensive for what it is because of bureaucracy and because of tax invasion. In other words, it's a commodity in which it's perceived that the authorities can get simply more tax out of it, whether it be smoking, whether it be drinking, or whether it be gambling. Take your pick. They're considered restrictable vices, and therefore there's a legitimacy to taxing them. And just for the record, the level of duty in the UK on a litre of spirits is very high. It's over 20, something like 28, 29 pounds, if not higher. And on top of that, on top of the customs and excise duty you pay on alcohol in the UK, you actually pay VAT on it, value added tax, which is currency hiring tax. And the effect is that you're paying tax on tax that you're paying. And then for the producers, there's business tax, and that's 19% basic. So although producers can claim back value added tax in production, it costs them money to do so. So essentially there's tax and tax and tax. So you have this repetitive taxation throughout the process of putting a bottle of whiskey to market. And we, the customers at the end of the line, when we pay the money, we don't realise just how much money the producers are not getting. Naturally, with older whiskies, they make more profit because the tax is fairly standardised in relation to the strength of alcohol and nothing to do with the age statement. And that kind of helps the distillers to a certain extent. And I know for a fact that some distillers are now subsidising the special deals that they put on for Amazon and in major supermarkets, and these very slim margin arrangements they make with the likes of Costco and even Target, the big bin commodity retailers, big box commodity retailers. They make very, very slim margins, and at times, particularly when supermarkets start deep discounting, or Amazon does, distillers make nothing. And if distillers can't, as a business, actually produce a reasonable profit, they're not going to survive. It's the lie of the land. It's not going to change anytime soon, but it's useful that we're aware of it, so we know when we're paying a certain price. We know what we're paying for. Having said that, it's certainly the case with so many new distilleries wanting to get their product out quickly. There are a number who are putting out the whiskey a little bit too soon, while it's still a little bit too raw, and the price, frankly, is a little bit high. And it's something in 2023 small distillers, new distillers, are going to have to be acutely aware of and sensitive to. People are drawing in the purse strings globally. We're now in a global village, and what affects one country affects other countries. It'll happen sooner, it'll maybe happen later, but it'll definitely happen, and for everybody, sooner than expected. Which brings us back to the primary purpose of my channel, to educate, inform and entertain, and also to highlight, review and give you a take, and it's purely an opinion. We're not dealing with expertise. That's the beauty of Whisky Online. It's a really positive community. You don't get many arseholes, frankly. I'm speaking bluntly, but that's the fact of it, compared to, say, in crypto or in fashion or in sports in particular. And heaven help us with political channels. It can be an absolute battleground of sour opinions. But whisky scene, bourbon scene, rum scene, is pretty civil, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for helping me and the other online content creators keep it that way. And this is what we have to do. We have to protect the quality of what we've got. So if you do see any spam content, malicious content, inform the creator or just flag it up to the platform provider. What else? yeah, something else in 2022. I published my third book. I've published 2 previous books, Search for a Whiskey Bothy and Stories from a Whiskey Bar. And I'm really, really chuffed, having never written books before, that you've enjoyed reading it. Those of you who have bought my book, and many have provided 5-star reviews. And it's entertainment. It is not an expert book. It's not a Charlie MacLean book or a Dave Broom book. There's no point in me writing those types of books because they've already been written by people who can do it better. So I'm writing my take, my practical autobiographical take. That's what it is. My anecdotal take on how ordinary people can get drawn into this phenomenal quality spirits culture where you get smells and tastes that are unavailable in any other medium. And a lot of people just don't latch onto it because they just want to drink to get pished. It's really sad, actually. So this is my latest book, Life, Death and Whiskey. You'll find it in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, other quality online bookstores, Book Dispensary, they all have it. It's a paperback. I don't do Kindle editions because when I did one for my first book, it got ripped off within 2 weeks as a free download on Twitter. And that pissed me off. But also, when you've got a physical book, it's something to put between your bottles of whiskey in your malt corner, and you can bring it out and have a wee read through it, just one chapter at a time while you're having a dram. And because I've published it myself, it's bigger writing, it's nice and clear, properly laid out on a bigger book format, which costs more to print, but it's worth it because it delivers the quality of the read. This is one of the problems with many publishing housing books, is they're now putting the words in to make space for pictures much, much smaller, and frankly, it gets to the stage you can't read a book without a magnifying glass. That's no use. So thank you very much for all the wonderful feedback. This is it has some sensitive content in it, by the way. Please be aware of that. I'm talking real life here. In this parallel journey with being a funeral director in Glasgow and also really, really getting into whiskey. So there it is. Life, Death and Whiskey. A good read. £12 in the UK or the equivalent wherever you are around the world. And time for a dram. Anything else I want to add before I introduce my whiskey of the year? Well, I'm going to make a recommendation. To enjoy whiskey better, enjoy it either in good company or alone by a fireside. Here we are, it's fire settling down now. Somewhere warm and cosy if you're in the northern hemisphere, or somewhere bright and cool if you're in the southern hemisphere, around the equator. And just slow everything down more than you think you should. And it's amazing how much progress you make in identifying these subtle and frequently exotic cocktails of flavours and sensations that you can find in good quality spirits. It's so exciting, malt mates, that in 2023 we're going to see more new distilleries appearing, and it's very heartening to see many of these new distilleries re-examine old whiskey making techniques like worm tubs and direct fired stills, and doing everything from conditioning the grain to bottling their product, everything in the premises, the way Springbank do it. Because at the moment, Springbank, it's unbelievable. They're still the only distillery that does the whole process end to end. And they have no trouble selling their whiskey. There's definitely, absolutely, a surging global demand for quality. And any distillery that can interpret that mission successfully virtually guarantees their future and our interest and attention. Those who sanitise their whisky, fine if you're a big corporation putting out to the passive masses who are lazy or struggling with a super sweet palate, and we all have to start somewhere. But many are lazy and they don't want to go on the journey. They just want an occasional bottle of whisky to celebrate the new year and get pished on. And good luck to them. And good luck to the producers who are making the whisky for these people. But within that group of folk, there are people who will stop and smell and taste. And they'll think, there's something going on here. I want to know more. And they're going to go online and they'll be joining you and they'll be joining me. And they're going to embark on a wonderful journey. And it's a fantastic for me to be part of that. I really appreciate the endorsement that you provide through watching my channel and supporting my little initiatives. And even, of course, in 2022, primarily for my Patreon supporters, I bottled a cask of Kulila that I owned, and it's been very well received. As will, maltmates, my whisky of the year. But one more thing I need to mention before I introduce my whisky of the year is the OSWAs, Online Scotch Whisky Awards. That's oswa.co.uk. It is a project bringing onliners and friends of onliners together in an awards scheme on a platform, and it's co-presented by Roy Duff at Aquavit. Go and check out his channel and check out his whisky portal called dramface.com. I knew I'd remember. He's got a site called Dramface, interviews, reviews and all the rest of it. Roy is my co-presenter. We co-present the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, and thank you to everybody who voted, contributed and who supported that. We'll be doing it again in 2023, and perhaps the my whisky of the year will be part of the shortlist, one of the nominations. Are you ready? Ralphie's whisky of the year for 2023 is Port Charlotte 10-year-old, bottled at 50% volume, unchill filtered, natural colour, and a very, very good single malt peated Islay whisky. And the price is not unreasonable. It's not. Bear in mind the strength of this whisky and the taxes that are extracted by His Majesty's Revenue and Customs, because it's alcohol. It's a big issue. There you have it. Happy New Year, maltmates. If you celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a good one. If you celebrate anything else, I hope you had a good one too. And we'll see you in 2023 for more malt moments and, yeah, Ralphie Review 1000. More about that nearer the time. Cheers now. It's cheerio from me and cheerio from the Clivey Clicker.